Shadowfang clan had conquered 40 star systems in 6 years. Elite core mercenaries, professional killers who perfected boarding actions in warfare they'd never lost. Now, their tactics were studied in military academies across 3 sectors. Their reputation preceded them like a shockwave. Then they met the Atlas Hauler, 37 unarmed freight workers, a cargo ship on its final scheduled run. No weapon systems, no military escort, just narrow steel corridors so tight 2 men could barely stand side by side, and workers who'd spent their lives hauling lithium ore across the void. 4 hours later, the Shadowfang clan retreated for the first time in their history. This is how blue-collar humans reminded the galaxy why we evolved fighting each other for 10,000 years. Why we learned to close distance. Why we never forgot that survival sometimes means standing your ground in spaces so tight you can smell your enemy's fear. This is the story of the Atlas Hauler and the working men who became warriors one last time. Jacob Rice ate alone in the mess hall at 0600 hours. He always ate alone. 37 crew members on the Atlas Hauler and their captain preferred solitude with his coffee and reconstituted eggs. The mess hall lights hummed, old fluorescents that needed replacing. Soren Torres had mentioned it 3 times in engineering reports. Rice had approved the repair order. The parts were on back order. Everything on the Atlas Hauler was on back order. He was 47 years old, 6 months from personal retirement. His coffee had gone cold 20 minutes ago, but he kept the cup in his hands anyway. Warmth, even artificial warmth, it helped. On the table beside his tray sat a photograph, printed on actual paper, expensive in deep space but worth it. His son Marcus, 22 years old, engineering student at University of Arizona, graduation in 3 months. Rice would be there. Civilian clothes, no uniform, just a father watching his son walk across that stage. The photograph showed Marcus in a dorm room, smiling, alive, safe on Earth where freight captains' sons belonged. Rice touched the edge of the photo. His fingers left no mark. He'd learned not to leave marks years ago. The mess hall door hissed open. Morning, Captain. Declan Porter, cargo chief, 52 years old with the build of a man who'd spent 3 decades moving heavy things in confined spaces. Graying hair cut military short, calloused hands that could crack a loading clamp seal or tie a proper bowline knot in 0G. Declan. Rice didn't look up. Porter poured coffee from the dispenser. The machine wheezed, also on the repair list. He sat across from Rice without asking. They'd known each other 11 years. Some permissions didn't require words. 6 months, Porter said, 6 months. You picked a retirement planet yet? Thinking about it. Marcus still wants you in Arizona. He does. Porter sipped his coffee, made a face. This stuff gets worse every run. Costs less every run. Economics of shipping lithium ore to outer colonies. Porter's voice carried no bitterness. Just statement of fact. We haul rocks. They pay minimum. Coffee tastes like oil runoff. Rice almost smiled. Almost. The door opened again. Kieran Vale stumbled in, young and sleep-deprived, 23 years old and 3 months into his first deep space contract. Navigator, fresh from civilian flight school, still wore his academy ring, still hadn't learned that chrome accessories got caught on bulkhead latches. Sirs, he grabbed coffee, nearly spilled it. His hands shook slightly. 3rd shift rotation. The kid wasn't adjusted to the sleep cycle yet. Vale, Porter nodded. You get any rest? Some, sir. The hum in the port quarter keeps. That's the lithium ore shifting in the cargo modules. Porter's tone shifted. Teaching mode. Army logistics officer tone. Micro vibrations, normal. You'll stop hearing it in 2 weeks. Yes, sir. Vale sat, drank, winced at the coffee's taste, but didn't complain. Good. Complainers didn't last on freight runs. Rice studied the kid without appearing to study him. Vale had athlete's shoulders, college football probably, wide receiver build, fast reflexes, decent spatial awareness. That's why they'd hired him. Navigators needed reaction time. But Vale's hands still shook, not from fear, from youth, from the excitement of being 23 and flying between star systems, from not yet understanding that space was mostly waiting and boredom punctuated by moments of terror. You ever serve? Rice asked. Vale looked up, surprised the captain had spoken directly to him. Sir, military service. Yeah. No, sir. Applied to the Fleet Academy. Didn't make the cut. Went civilian flight school instead. Rice nodded. Didn't say anything else. Porter caught his eye. A flicker of something passed between them. Old soldiers recognizing old patterns. The door opened a fourth time. Soren Torres entered like a force of nature, 38 years old, 5'6", wearing coveralls stained with grease and what looked like coolant fluid. Dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. No makeup, no jewelry except a simple silver watch her daughter had given her for Mother's Day. She carried a datapad in fury. Captain, the number 3 coolant exchanger is cycling hot again. Rice sighed. How hot? Red line -5 degrees. I can keep it managed, but we need to drop out of FTL for 12 hours and let me rebuild we're on schedule. We're on a schedule that assumes our ship isn't 50 years old and held together with spite and electromagnetic tape. Porter grinned into his coffee. Rice met Torres's eyes. She didn't blink. Single mother, 2 daughters back on station housing. This job paid for their education, their health care, their future. She fought for every credit, every repair, every safety margin. Can you keep it managed until we hit Frontier 7, Race asked. I can keep anything managed, Captain. Question is whether you want me to or whether you want to file the incident report when it blows. It won't blow? You're right, because I'll be babysitting it for the next 72 hours instead of sleeping. I'll approve overtime. I don't want overtime, I want parts. Parts are on back order, I know. Torres set the datapad on the table harder than necessary. I swear to God, when I retire, I'm buying a planet-side garage and only fixing things that don't explode when they break. She poured coffee, drank it black, didn't complain about the taste. You ever served? Vale asked her. Wrong question. Rice saw it immediately. Torres turned slowly. Do I look like I had time to serve, kid? I was 17 with a baby when most people enlist. Been working engine rooms since I was 20. Learned on civilian transports. Taught myself everything the Navy would have taught me, except I got paid while doing it. Vale's face reddened. I didn't mean... I know what you meant. Her voice softened slightly. But some of us fought different battles. The door opened one more time. Silas Cross walked in carrying a medical kit. 35 years old, lean, with the careful movements of someone who'd spent years treating injuries in 0G. Former Navy corpsman. Honorable discharge after 8 years. He'd seen combat. You could tell by the way his eyes tracked movement. Morning, Captain, Chief, Torres, Vale. A round of acknowledgments. Cross poured coffee, added sugar from a small packet he'd brought from his quarters. Personal supply. He sat at the end of the table slightly apart. How's inventory? Rice asked. We're low on blood plasma. Antibiotics are at 60%. Burn gel is adequate. Overall, I'd give us a C- for emergency preparedness. Frontier 7 is 4 days out. 4 days is how long it takes to bleed out approximately 80 times. Porter snorted. You're cheerful this morning. I'm realistic. Cross sipped his coffee, grimaced despite the sugar. Optimism doesn't stop infections. They sat in silence. 6 people in a mess hall designed for 40. The lights hummed. The coffee tasted like chemicals. Outside, the reinforced viewports, faster than light travel, painted stars into silver streaks. This was routine. This was normal. This was the life of freight workers hauling lithium ore to outer colonies for minimum wage and the promise of retirement benefits. Jacob Rice looked at his crew. Porter solid and dependable. Torres brilliant and fierce. Cross competent and careful. Vale young and eager. 37 people total on the Atlas hauler. Most he'd never see in the mess hall. They worked in shifts. They maintained distance. They did their jobs, but these four ate breakfast in his presence. Something old stirred in Rice's chest. Something from 12 years ago before he'd left the Marines, before he'd chosen freight work over service, before he'd decided that peace was worth more than purpose. Squad. That's what his brain whispered. He pushed the thought away. 4 more days, he said. Then we're at Frontier 7, 2-day layover, shore leave for anyone who wants it. Then we pick up the return cargo and head back. What's the return cargo? Vale asked. Processed titanium, station manufacturers, whatever they need moved. Exciting stuff, Torres muttered. Pays the bills, Porter replied. Rice stood. Breakfast finished, coffee cold. Photograph returned to his pocket. I'll be on the bridge. Porter. I want a cargo status report by 0900. Torres, do what you need to do with the coolant exchanger. Cross submit your supply requisition for Frontier 7. Vale plot our approach vector. Yes, sir, in unison. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Good work, all of you. They looked up surprised. Rice didn't give compliments often. He left before they could respond. The Atlas hauler was ugly, 500 meters of rectangular functionality. Cargo modules stacked like shipping containers. Thick armor plating designed for micrometeorite impacts, not combat. No weapon systems, no missile tubes, no point defense turrets. It had engines, life support, basic navigation, and cargo space. That was the design philosophy. Move mass from point A to point B. Survive the void. Nothing more. The corridors were narrow, barely wide enough for two people to pass side by side. Designed that way deliberately. Space was expensive. Every cubic meter devoted to hallways was cargo capacity lost. Bulkheads sectioned the ship into compartments. Heavy doors that could seal in case of decompression. Reinforced, airtight, designed to contain disasters. Jacob Rice walked the corridors every day. Portside, main deck down to engineering, back to cargo up to the bridge. Same route, same timing. He knew every handhold, every access panel, every section where the deck plates rattled slightly underfoot. He knew this ship. He passed crew members, nodded. They nodded back. First names, last names. Faces he'd known for years, or faces he'd hired 3 months ago. They kept the Atlas hauler running. Maintenance workers, cargo handlers, system monitors. In the old days on the transport ship that had carried his Marine unit, they'd called this walking the boat. Officers checked on their people, made themselves visible, reminded everyone that leadership wasn't just a rank. It was presence. Rice had left the Marines, but some habits refused to die. He took a maintenance ladder down to engineering. The temperature rose 10 degrees, always hotter near the engines. The hum of machinery filled the air, a constant vibration that you felt in your teeth. Soren Torres knelt beside the number 3 coolant exchanger datapad in one hand, calibration tool in the other. Sweat beaded on her forehead. She didn't look up. "It's not going to blow," she said. "I know, because I'm not going to let it." "I know that too." She glanced at him. "Then why are you down here checking on my engineer?" "Your engineer is busy preventing catastrophic system failure." Rice leaned against the bulkhead, cool metal against his back. "You know what protocol iron is?" Torres's hands paused, barely, just for a second. "I know what it is." "When's the last time we used it?" 6 years ago, pirate raid, 2 crew members died. You were here for that. I was here for that. Her voice went flat, professional. Cargo bay ambush, we fought them in the corridors. They retreated, we lost Mitchell and Okoro. You remember the protocol. I remember the protocol. She set down her tools, looked at him directly. Why are you asking me about protocol iron? Making sure people remember. Jacob. First name, they'd worked together 11 years. She'd earned first name privileges. Is there something you're not telling me? No, just thinking. That's what worries me. He pushed off the bulkhead, started to leave. Captain. He stopped. Mitchell and Okoro died because we didn't expect professionals, Torres said quietly. We thought we were fighting regular raiders. We were wrong. I remember. If we ever have to use protocol iron again, we'll do it right. He climbed back up the ladder. The bridge of the Atlas hauler was small, 10 meters square. Central command console, navigator station, comms, sensors, 2 chairs and a lot of standing room. Jacob Rice preferred standing. Kieran Vale sat at the navigator station studying approach vectors to Frontier 7. The kid's concentration was absolute, eyes locked on the display. Fingers moving across the interface with increasing confidence. Good, he was learning. Captain, we're 12 hours from the transition point, Vale said. We'll drop out of FTL Coast in-system on sublight dock at Frontier 7 approximately 32 hours later. Confirmed. Send the docking request. Already sent, sir. Awaiting confirmation. Race nodded. Vale was getting better. Still green, but better. The sensor display showed empty space, normal for freight lanes. This route wasn't heavily traveled. Outer colonies, frontier stations, the shipping equivalent of back roads, safe, quiet, predictable. Rice watched the sensors anyway. 12 years in the Marines taught habits. You checked corners, you scanned horizons. You never assumed safe meant secure. Sir, we're getting a proximity alert. Race's attention snapped to the display, where bearing 270 elevation plus 15, range of 4,000 kilometers and closing. We're IFF transponder. Vale's fingers moved. Negative, no identification signal. Contact, single vessel, medium cruiser class, drive signature consistent with... Vale's voice changed, younger, uncertain. Sir, that's a combat profile. Rice was already moving to the console. His eyes tracked the data. Drive emissions, power readings, weapon signatures. His blood went cold. Sound general alert, all crew to stations. Sir, Huang, now Vale. The alarm cut through the ship like a knife. Harsh, urgent. Everyone on the Atlas hauler knew that sound. Emergency protocols, battle stations. Except the Atlas hauler didn't have battle stations. Declan Porter's voice came over comms immediately. Captain, what's the situation? Unknown vessel. Combat profile. Approaching fast. Do we run? We can't outrun a cruiser. Silence on the line. Then understood. Initiating lockdown procedures. Across the ship, crew members moved. Not panicking, not yet. But fear had a smell. Even through recycled air, the sensor display updated. The vessel was closer now. 3,000 kilometers. Its profile resolved with horrifying clarity. Sleek. Predatory. Weapon ports visible even at this range. And on its hull, barely visible on the sensor scan and insignia. Rice's hands gripped the console edge. Vale, magnify that symbol. The image enlarged. A stylized fang, dripping, curved like a scimitar. Kieran Vale read it from the database. Shadowfang Clan, core mercenary group, known for boarding actions. 37 confirmed raids in the past 4 years. 0 reported failures. Rice's mind raced through options. They were 3 days from any military patrol. No weapons, slow ship, sitting targets. Captain, they're hailing us. Put it through. The main screen flickered. A face appeared, not human. Core, tall, narrow frame, skin with a faint metallic sheen that caught the light like oil on water. Eyes deep set and lidless black orbs that didn't blink. Limbs jointed twice where humans had elbows and knees. Movements that looked almost fluid, almost graceful, almost wrong. Captain Zarok. Human vessel. The voice was precise, unaccented. The translator software stripped away alien phonetics, leaving only cold efficiency. You will power down your engines. You will not transmit distress signals. You will prepare for boarding. Rice kept his face neutral. This is Captain Jacob Rice of the freight vessel Atlas Hauler. We're carrying lithium ore to Frontier 7. No military cargo, no contraband. We're civilians. Your cargo is irrelevant. Your compliance is required. And if we refuse, you will not refuse. Not a threat, a statement of fact. Deshaun. The screen showed Zarok's bridge behind him. Other core moved with mechanical precision. Tactical displays glowed. Weapon systems powered. Professional. Organized. Lethal. How long until they're in weapons range? Rice asked quietly. Vale checked. 8 minutes. Rice looked at this kid, 23 years old, hadn't applied to Fleet Academy for this, hadn't signed up for pirate raids. Vale, I need you to do something for me. Sir, stay calm, follow orders, and trust your training. I haven't trained for... You've trained for this exact scenario, you just don't know it yet. Rice keyed the ship-wide comm. His voice carried to every corridor, every compartment, every crew member on the Atlas hauler. All hands, this is the captain. We are being boarded by hostile forces. This is not a drill. I am initiating Protocol Iron. All personnel to assigned positions. Seal all bulkheads on my mark. Weapons lockers will be opened. Follow your section leaders. Stay in your zones. Do not engage until ordered. He paused. Let them process. We've done this before. We know our ship. We know our corridors. And we know how to defend our home. Another pause. 6 months ago, I told you we were going to make it to retirement. I meant it. We're getting through this, all of us, together. He released the comm button. Across the ship, heavy bulkheads began to seal. Not all of them, only the ones that mattered. Creating choke points, forcing invaders into narrow passages, limiting movement. The Atlas hauler transformed, from cargo ship to fortress, from workplace to battlefield, from home to killing ground. Declan Porter moved through Cargo Bay 3 with the efficiency of a man who'd done this before. He had, 6 years ago, and 20 years before that in Army logistics during the border conflicts. His hands worked automatically, opening concealed panels, revealing weapons that technically weren't supposed to be on civilian freight vessels. Shotguns, compact carbines, kinetic rounds designed for close quarters combat in pressurized environments. Nothing fancy, nothing military grade, but functional. 2 crew members joined him, cargo handlers, both in their 40s, both with the look of men who'd worked hard jobs their whole lives. "We doing this again?" one asked. "We're doing this again. I was hoping we wouldn't have to." "Me too." Porter distributed weapons, showed them the ammunition, counted rounds. "Remember the drills. Remember the drills." "Good. Cover positions are marked. Stay low. Wait for the signal. They come through that airlock." He pointed to the primary cargo bay entrance. "And they funnel into the intake corridor. Narrow, single file. We hit them from the alcoves. Just like last time. Just like last time. Except this time we know what we're doing." The two handlers nodded, checked their weapons, settled into positions. Porter keyed his comm. "Cargo bay 3 secure. Protocol iron active." Across the ship, similar reports came in, section by section, zone by zone. 37 crew members transforming from freight workers to defenders. In engineering, Soren Torres sealed access panels and rerouted power. She could control environmental systems from here. Lights, temperature, pressure. In tight corridors, environment was a weapon. In medical, Silas Cross prepared for casualties. He laid out surgical supplies he hoped he wouldn't need. Plasma bags, trauma kits, body bags. On the bridge, Kieran Vale watched sensors and tried to control his breathing. Jacob Rice stood at the command console and remembered. He remembered boot camp. He remembered urban combat training. He remembered the Marine Corps instructors who taught him that in close quarters, superior technology meant nothing. In hallways and rooms and stairwells, it came down to tactics, positioning, nerve. He remembered the last time they'd used protocol iron. The bodies, the screaming, the way shotgun blasts sounded in steel corridors. He remembered Mitchell and Okoro. Good people, dead because they'd underestimated their attackers. Not this time. "Captain, they are launching boarding pods," Vale reported. On the sensor display, 6 objects detached from the Shadowfang cruiser. Small, fast, designed for one purpose: breaching. Count 6 pods, estimated 10 to 12 personnel each. Total boarding force approximately 60 to 72 hostiles. 72 trained core warriors against 37 freight workers. The math was brutal, but math didn't account for home field advantage. "Track their approach vectors," Rice ordered. "I want to know where they're hitting us." Vale's hands moved across the interface. "Primary pod targeting cargo bay 1. 2 pods converging on forward section near crew quarters. 1 pod heading for engineering. 1 targeting the bridge section. Last pod, sir, it's heading for cargo bay 3. Rice pulled up the ship schematic, saw the vectors, understood the tactics. They were trying to spread the defenders. Force multiple battles, divide and conquer, standard boarding procedure. But the Atlas hauler wasn't a standard target. "Porter, you're going to have company in cargo bay 3. How many? 1 full pod, maybe 12 hostiles. We'll be ready. Torres, seal everything but the primary maintenance shaft in your section. Make them come at you single file." "Already done, Captain." Rice looked at Vale. The kid was pale, hands steady but barely. "You ever fire a weapon?" "Civilian range, pistols. Nothing like..." "There's a carbine in the emergency locker behind panel 7. You know how to load it." "Aye, yes, sir." "Good. You stay here. You monitor those sensors. You call out positions. And if anyone comes through that door who isn't me, or Porter, or Torres, or Cross, you shoot them. Understand?" Vale swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." "You're going to be fine." "How do you know?" "Because you're on my ship, and nobody takes my ship." The first boarding pod struck the hull with a metallic screech that echoed through the entire vessel. Thermal drills activated, cutting through armor plating. The smell of melting steel filtered through the ventilation. Rice keyed the ship-wide comm one last time. "They're coming. Remember your training, trust your positions, and when they step into your corridors, make them regret it." Pressure seals engaged. The boarding pod locked onto the hull. A hatch irised open in cargo bay 1. The first core warrior stepped through. Tall, armed, confident, he saw a narrow corridor, stacked cargo containers, dim lighting, no humans visible. He raised his energy rifle. Advanced. Behind him, 11 more core followed. Single file, weapons ready, moving with professional precision through the confined space. The corridor bent after 20 meters, then again after 10 more, forcing them to turn their bodies, to angle their weapons awkwardly around tight corners. One of the core muttered something in their native language. The translator didn't catch it, but the tone was clear. Confusion. This didn't match their briefing scans. At the third bend, the lights went out. Complete darkness. The core switched to low-spectrum scanning. Their rifles compensated. Shapes resolved in pale outlines. A metallic sound echoed down the corridor. A short, heavy click. The lead core hesitated. From the darkness ahead came a human voice. Declan Porter, one word. Now. The first shotgun blast filled the corridor like thunder trapped in steel. The sound was physical, a pressure wave that slammed into eardrums and chest cavities. In the narrow corridor, the blast amplified, reflected, doubled back on itself. The lead core's chest armor dented inward. Kinetic rounds struck with blunt force, not designed to penetrate, designed to transfer energy, to break bones, to stop forward momentum. The warrior fell backward into his squad. Declan Porter worked the pump action, muscle memory from 30 years ago. The empty shell ejected. A fresh round chambered. He fired again. Another core stumbled. From a side maintenance alcove barely visible in the darkness, a second human emerged. Shotgun raised. Point-blank range. He fired once. Twice. The core tried to return fire. Blue energy lances scorched the ceiling, carved molten lines into the walls. But in the confined space, they couldn't establish firing lines, couldn't spread out, couldn't bring their superior technology to bear. They were tall, built for open terrain, long limbs that needed room to maneuver. The corridor didn't give them room. Porter pulled back as a bulkhead door slammed down behind him. Heavy, reinforced, sealing the corridor, trapping 3 core between blast doors. In that confined box, 2 human cargo handlers moved. They didn't hesitate, didn't think, just acted. Training, drills, muscle memory. One fired low, aiming for knee joints. The core anatomy was different, but joints were joints. Hinges broke the same way regardless of species. The other human rushed forward with a steel maintenance bar. Combat at arm's length, the way humans had fought for 10,000 years. On the bridge, Kieran Vale watched his sensor display light up with weapons fire. Captain, multiple breach points confirmed. Cargo Bay 1 is engaged. Engineering section is Jesus Christ. Report Vale. Engineering just vented a coolant line into quarter 7. Temperature drop of 60 degrees in 4 seconds. The core they're slowing down. Jacob Rice allowed himself the ghost of a smile. Torres is improvising. Sir, boarding pod 2 just breached crew quarters. Hostiles are moving toward. The bridge door opened. Silas Cross entered. No medical kit this time. He carried a compact carbine and a very calm expression. Figured you might need backup, Cross said. You're supposed to be in medical. Medical is sealed and ready for casualties. Right now, the casualties are going to be theirs. Rice didn't argue. Cross was former Navy, combat medic. He knew which end of the rifle did the damage. Take position by the door. Anyone comes through who isn't crew. I know the drill, Captain. Vale's hands shook on the console. Sir, I'm reading weapons fire in 5 different sections. We're holding, but what? They're not retreating. They're adapting, changing tactics. On the sensor feed, Rice watched the core forces regroup. They'd taken casualties, but they weren't panicking. They were professionals. They'd expected an easy boarding. Frightened civilians, quick compliance. They'd found resistance instead. Now they knew. Now the real fight began. In engineering, Soren Torres crouched behind a coolant manifold and breathed through her mouth. The air was cold. Frost formed on the pipes. Her breath made clouds. 3 core warriors stood 15 meters away, visible through the maintenance grating. They were trying to cut through a sealed bulkhead with plasma tools. Smart, methodical, professional. Torres checked her datapad. Environmental controls at her fingertips. She adjusted the oxygen mix in their section. Dropped it by 3%. Not enough to trigger their suit alarms. Just enough to make them slightly slower, slightly less sharp. Hypoxia was a gentle killer. One of the core stumbled, barely noticeable. His partner steadied him. Torres smiled without humor. She keyed her comm. Engineering to bridge. 3 hostiles contained in Section 4. They're cutting through, but it'll take them 15 minutes. Can you hold? Rice's voice. I can hold all day, Captain. I've got control of their environment. They're breathing what I let them breathe. Don't kill them unless you have to. Copy that, just making them uncomfortable. She adjusted the temperature, raised it 10 degrees, then dropped it 15. Cycling, making the core suits work overtime to compensate. Uncomfortable was an understatement. In cargo bay, 3 Declan Porter reloaded his shotgun and took stock. 2 core down, not dead, incapacitated, broken limbs, armor dented. They'd live if they got medical attention. The rest of the boarding team had retreated to the cargo bay entrance, regrouping, learning. One of Porter's crew members, a cargo handler named Greer, was bleeding from a shoulder wound. Blue Energy Lance had clipped him. The burn was ugly but not fatal. "You good?" Porter asked. "I'm good." Greer's jaw was tight. Pain, but functional. "Fall back to medical when you can." "Not yet." Porter understood. Leaving the fight meant admitting weakness, and freight workers didn't admit weakness easily. The Corps tried a new tactic. They deployed a micro-drone, small, flying, equipped with scanning equipment. It floated into the corridor. Porter let it come. 10 meters, 5 meters. A metal grate in the floor snapped open. A human hand shot up, grabbed the drone, dragged it down into the maintenance crawl space. The Corps fired at the floor. Energy beams punched holes in the metal. Then the deck beneath them shifted. Hydraulic locks disengaged. The floor panel dropped 3 feet, tilted sharply. The Corps lost balance. Their jointed legs, built for long strides on open terrain, couldn't compensate for sudden elevation changes. From both ends of the corridor, humans emerged. Porter from one side, 2 cargo handlers from maintenance hatches. They closed distance, not shooting, moving, getting close. One Corps tried to swing his rifle around. Porter stepped inside the barrel, drove his shoulder into the alien's chest. The impact slammed the warrior against the wall hard enough to dent the metal. Another human, Greer, bleeding but functional, hooked his arm around a Corps' upper limb and twisted. A sharp crack echoed. The fight turned physical. The corridor was too tight for energy weapons, too tight for long-range tactics. It favored compact force. Humans were built for it. On the Shadowfang cruiser, Captain Zarok watched his tactical display degrade into chaos. Team 1 reports casualties. Team 2 is engaged in melee combat. Team 3 is trapped in an environmental containment. Zarok's eyes, lidless and unblinking, tracked the data. His long fingers moved across the interface with mechanical precision. This was wrong. Boarding actions were routine. Humans were weak, recently spacefaring. Primitive technology. They surrendered or they died quickly. But the Atlas hauler was fighting back. Not just fighting, winning. "How many casualties?" Zarok asked. 12 incapacitated, 3 critical, 5 wounded. Nearly a third of his force, in 20 minutes, against unarmed freight workers. "Analysis," Zarok demanded. His tactical officer studied the feeds. "The humans are using the ship's layout against us. Narrow corridors, sealed bulkheads, environmental controls. They're forcing close quarters engagement. They have no weapons." Scans indicated no weapons. They were concealed. Zarok's skin rippled, a core expression of displeasure. "Who commands their defense?" "Unknown, but their tactics suggest military training, urban combat, boarding defense protocols. They're civilians. They fight like soldiers." Zarok watched a live feed from Team 4. His warriors were pinned in a corridor, unable to advance, unable to retreat, caught between sealed bulkheads while humans fired from concealed positions. Professional, coordinated, lethal. This was not compliance. This was war. And Zarok realized with cold clarity that he had made a mistake. He had assumed weakness based on appearance. No visible weapons, no military escort, freight vessel. But humans had evolved on a death world. High gravity, predators, disease, violence. They'd spent 10,000 years perfecting close quarters combat, and he'd brought his warriors into their territory. "Recall Team 5 and 6, Zarok ordered. "Sir, Byway, recall them. Redirect to support the breached teams. We consolidate. We adapt." The mission parameters. The mission parameters assumed compliance. Zarok's voice went cold. "We're facing resistance. We respond accordingly." He opened a channel to his boarding teams. "All units, new tactics. Explosives on sealed bulkheads. Bypass the corridors. Cut through walls. Force them into open spaces." If the humans wanted to use their ship against him, he'd take the ship apart. Jacob Rice heard the first explosion through the hull. Shaped charges, cutting through bulkheads. The Corps were adapting faster than expected. "Captain, they're breaching Section 2 with explosives," Vale reported. Voice higher now, stress bleeding through. "How many multiple teams? They're trying to bypass our choke points." Rice ran calculations in his head. Crew positions, ammunition, casualties, time. They'd held for 25 minutes, inflicted significant damage. But the Corps had resources, they had training, they had numbers, and they were learning. "Torres, can you seal the breached sections?" "Not without venting atmosphere, and we've got crew in those zones." Porter status. "Cargo 3 is holding. But if they start blowing walls, we're going to lose our defensive positions. Rice looked at the tactical display. At the 37 green dots representing his crew. At the red dots representing core warriors. The red dots were spreading, adapting, overwhelming through sheer persistence. He'd bought time. He'd made them bleed. But time was running out. Kieran Vale looked at him. 23 years old, first deep space contract, expecting routine freight work. Not this. Never this. Sir, what do we do? Jacob Rice met the kid's eyes and made a decision. We make them pay for every meter, every corridor, every section. His voice was calm. Steady. Command voice from 12 years ago. We don't surrender. We don't run. We defend our home. He keyed the shipwide comm. All hands, the enemy is changing tactics. They're coming at us from multiple angles. They're bringing explosives. They're trying to break our positions. He paused. Let them absorb it. But they're also bleeding. They're dying in our corridors. They're learning that boarding the Atlas hauler was a mistake. Another pause. We've fought for 25 minutes. We've held our ground. And we're going to keep holding. Because this ship is ours. These corridors are ours. And nobody takes our home without paying the price. He released the comm, looked at Cross, at Vale. Get ready. They're coming for the bridge next. Silas Cross checked his carbine. How many? All of them. Cross nodded. No fear, just acceptance. Kieran Vale's hands shook. But he reached for the emergency locker, retrieved the carbine Rice had mentioned, loaded it with trembling fingers. I don't know if I can. You can, Rice said, because you have to. The sensors showed core forces converging on the bridge section. 20 hostiles, armed, professional, angry, 3 humans, 1 cargo ship captain, 1 medic, 1 navigator who'd never fired a shot in anger. The math was impossible. But Jacob Rice had learned a long time ago that impossible just meant difficult. And difficult was what humans did best. The first shaped charge detonated against the bridge blast door. Metal screamed, the door held. Barely. Here they come, Rice said quietly. He raised his weapon and waited. The second shaped charge split the bridge blast door down the center. Metal peeled back like flesh. Smoke poured through the gap. Behind it, shadows moved. Tall, angular, armed. Jacob Rice fired first. The carbine kicked against his shoulder. 3-round burst. Controlled. Precise. The rounds sparked off core armor, but forced them back. Silas Cross fired from the left position. Different rhythm, single shots, aiming for joints, for gaps in the plating. Kieran Vale's first shot went wide. High, his hands shook so badly the barrel wavered. Breathe, kid, Rice said without looking at him. Exhale. Squeeze. Vale's second shot found target. A core warrior stumbled. The breach widened. 4 core pushed through simultaneously. Energy rifles blazing. Blue lances scorched across the bridge. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. The tactical display shattered. Cross moved. Combat medic instincts. He grabbed Vale by the collar and hauled him behind the command console. Stay low. Rice didn't retreat. He advanced. 2 steps forward. Firing. The Corps didn't expect it. Defenders were supposed to fall back. Supposed to seek cover. Rice closed the distance to 5 meters. 4 meters. 3. At 3 meters, kinetic rounds punched through core armor. The lead warrior went down. Chest plate cracked. Purple blood, darker than human red, spread across the deck. The others hesitated. Just for a second. A second was enough. Cross emerged from behind the console, fired low, shattered a knee joint. The core collapsed with a sound like breaking branches. But more were coming. The breach was wide enough now. 8 core 10. They filled the doorway. Race's weapon clicked empty. He dropped it, drew a sidearm from his belt, kept firing. Fall back, Cross shouted. No. Rice's voice was ice. They want the bridge, they pay for it. He fired until the sidearm ran dry. Then he grabbed a piece of broken console, sharp-edged, heavy, and threw it. The metal caught a core across the face. The warrior's head snapped back. The core rushed him. Rice met them. Hand to hand. No finesse, no martial arts, just brutal, efficient violence learned in 100 close-quarters drills. He ducked under a rifle swing, drove his fist into an alien solar plexus. The core doubled over. Rice brought his knee up, connected with the warrior's head. Another core grabbed him from behind, long limbs wrapped around his torso, constricting. Cross shot the alien in the shoulder. It released. Rice spun, grabbed the wounded core's rifle, used it as a club, swung hard, The buttstock shattered against another warrior's helmet. "Captain, we have to." The energy lance caught Rice high on the left shoulder. Blue fire, instant, searing. It spun him completely around. The smell of burned flesh filled the bridge. His own flesh. He hit the deck hard. The impact drove air from his lungs. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Just pain. Through blurring vision, he saw crossfiring. Saw Vale trembling, terrified, pulling the trigger again and again. Saw core warriors advancing. Saw the bridge being overrun. His last thought before darkness took him was simple. Failure. Declan Porter heard the call over comms. "Bridge is compromised. Captain is down. Repeat, captain is down." Cross's voice. Steady, professional, but underneath urgency. Porter was in Cargo Bay 3, covered in someone else's blood. 3 core bodies at his feet. His shotgun was empty. His crew was battered. But they'd held. Now the bridge was falling. He made the decision in 2 seconds. "All sections, this is Porter. I'm taking command. Hold your positions. Do not, I repeat, do not abandon your zones." Responses came back. Voices he knew. Soren Torres, others. "Copy, Chief. Understood. We're with you." Porter looked at his cargo team. Greer, Thompson, Martinez, all bleeding, all exhausted, all still standing. "Can you hold here?" Greer nodded. "We can hold." "Good, because I need to get to the bridge." He moved, not running. Running got you killed, but moving with purpose through corridors he knew by heart. The ship shuddered. Another explosion somewhere aft. The core were still breaching, still pressing. Porter's mind worked tactically. They'd inflicted casualties, maybe 20 core down, but that left 50 still active, 50 against 37. And the 37 were workers, not soldiers. They were losing, slowly, expensively for the core, but losing. He reached the bridge level. The blast door was twisted metal, smoke everywhere, the acrid smell of burned electronics, and bodies, core bodies mostly, but human blood on the deck too. Silas Cross knelt beside Daka Bryce, medical kit open, hands moving with desperate efficiency. Kieran Vale sat against the wall, carbine across his lap. His face was white, eyes too wide. Shock. Porter took it all in. "How bad?" "Energy lance to the shoulder," Cross said without looking up. "Burned through muscle. Missed the lung by centimeters. He's lost blood. He's unconscious. Is he going to die?" "Not if I can help it." Porter knelt beside Rice. The captain's face was pale, breath shallow. The wound was ugly, cauterized by the energy weapon, but the surrounding tissue was damaged. Rice looked old, looked human, looked mortal. Porter had served with this man for 11 years, had watched him make impossible decisions, had trusted him with his life. Now Rice was down, and Porter was in command. He stood, looked at Vale. "You hurt?" "No, sir, I'm not hurt." "You did good." "I froze. I couldn't." "You're still breathing. You're still here. That's all that matters." Porter's voice was firm, command voice. "Now I need you to do something for me." Vale looked up, young eyes, desperate for purpose. "What?" "Get to the auxiliary bridge station. Reroute sensor controls. I need eyes on the ship. Can you do that?" I saw." "Yes, sir." "Then do it." Vale stood, moved. Purpose steadied him. Porter turned across. "How long until you can move him?" "He needs surgery, real surgery, not field medicine." "We don't have time for real surgery." "Then he stays here." "Here isn't safe." Cross met his eyes. "Nowhere on this ship is safe right now." Porter understood. "Do what you can. I'll buy you time." He activated his comm. All sections status report. Responses came in, choppy, interrupted by weapons fire. Torres engineering holding. 12 hostiles in sections 4 and 5. Contained but persistent. Cargo team Bay 3 secure, taking casualties. Others reported similar situations. Holding, barely. Porter pulled up a mental map of the ship. Saw the pattern. The core were pushing towards central sections, trying to reach life support. Ship's core. If they took that, they controlled everything. "All teams fall back to Junction Delta. We're consolidating." "Chief, if we abandon our sections, if we stay spread out, they'll pick us off one by one. We consolidate. We make them come through one choke point. Junction Delta. Move now." He heard hesitation, then compliance. Across the ship, 37 freight workers began withdrawing, fighting retrograde, covering each other. It was the hardest kind of fighting. Retreat without route, discipline under pressure. But they were doing it. Because they drilled it. because Rice had insisted on protocol iron training every 6 months, because they were professionals. Porter looked at Cross, at Rice. Get him to medical, seal it. If we fall, you're the last line. Cross nodded, started rigging a stretcher from damaged equipment. Porter grabbed a fresh weapon from a fallen core. Energy rifle. He didn't know the interface. Didn't matter. Point and shoot worked in every language. He moved toward Junction Delta, toward the last stand. Junction Delta was exactly what it sounded like. 4 corridors converging into a central space. 20 meters square, high ceiling, the architectural heart of the ship. It was also a killing ground. Declan Porter arrived first, set up fields of fire, identified cover positions, planned angles. Soren Torres came next, covered in coolant and sweat. She carried a plasma cutter in fury. We're giving up engineering. We're not giving up anything. We're choosing our battlefield. They'll tear apart my engines. Engines won't matter if we're all dead. Torres stared at him, then nodded. What do you need? Can you control environmental systems from here? Give me 30 seconds and a data pad. You've got 20. She moved, fingers flying across her portable interface, rerouting controls, bypassing damaged systems. More crew arrived. Cargo handlers, maintenance workers, a cook who'd picked up a carbine and learned to use it. 16 people total, half the original crew. Porter didn't ask about the others, didn't need to. Some were holding other positions. Some were wounded. Some were dead. Kieran Vale's voice came over calm. Chief, I've got sensors back. The Corps are converging on your position, all remaining forces. How many? I count 43 active hostiles, 43 against 16. Porter had faced worse odds in the border conflicts, in places whose names were still classified. But he'd had Marines then, professional soldiers, not freight workers. He looked at his people, bleeding, exhausted, determined. Listen up, he said, not shouting, just projecting. Command presence. They're coming, all of them. They want to end this fast. Faces turned toward him, waiting. We're going to let them think they can. He gestured to the junction. 4 entry points. They'll split their forces, come at us from multiple angles. Standard breach tactics. He paused and let them visualize it. But we control the junction. We control the corridors leading to it. Torres has environmental controls. We have overlapping fields of fire, and we have something they don't. What's that? Someone asked. We know this ship, every handhold, every blind corner, every place where the deck plates are loose. He saw understanding spread. We fix things, we build things. We know how things break. He picked up his weapon, and we're about to show them exactly how humans break things when we're cornered. Soren Torres looked up from her datapad. Environmental controls ready? I can drop temperature, kill lights, vent, atmosphere in the approach corridors. Save it. Let them get close first. She smiled without humor. You're learning. Porter positioned his people. 2 per corridor entrance and need overlapping coverage. Fallback positions identified. The waiting began. 60 seconds of silence. Then the sound. Boots on deck plates. Many boots, multiple directions. Here they come, Porter said quietly. The first corps appeared in the north corridor, then the east, then south and west. Simultaneous assault, professional coordination. Porter let them advance. 10 meters, 5. Torres now. The lights died. Temperature dropped 20 degrees in 3 seconds. From the darkness, shotgun blasts thundered. The junction erupted. The fight lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes of sustained brutal combat in near total darkness. The Corps had low light vision, technological advantage. But Torres had vented coolant vapor into the air. It scattered their sensors, created false signatures. Humans fought by sound, by memory, by knowing exactly where they were in space. Declan Porter moved like he was 30 years younger. Muscle memory from wars he didn't talk about. He fired, repositioned, fired again, never staying in one place. A Corps warrior charged him. Porter sidestepped, let the alien's momentum carry it past, then struck with the rifle butt, hard, precise. The warrior went down. Another came from the left. Porter dropped his rifle. Too slow. Drew a maintenance knife from his belt. 8 inches of steel. He drove it into the joint between the Corps' chest plate and arm guard. Purple blood fountained. The warrior screamed, a sound that translated across species. Pain, surprise, fear. Porter twisted the blade, pushed the Corps away. No hesitation, no mercy. This was combat. Kill or be killed. Across the junction, Soren Torres proved that engineering knowledge was a weapon. She'd calculated sight lines, knew where ricochets would travel. She fired energy weapons into the ceiling at precise angles. The reflected beams caught core warriors from unexpected directions. Cargo handlers fought with tools turned lethal. Cargo hooks, pry bars. One man swung an industrial wrench that must have weighed 10 pounds. It connected with a core helmet. The alien dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Kieran Vale, watching from sensors, called out positions. 3 hostiles, west corridor 5 meters from junction. 2 more coming up behind you, Porter. Left side, left side. Porter spun, fired blind, heard the impact. The scream, the core adapted. They always did. They started using explosives again. Grenades into the junction. Cover, Porter shouted. Humans dove. The explosion was deafening. Shrapnel tore through the air. Someone screamed. Porter's ears rang. He tasted blood. His own or someone else's, he didn't know. He pushed to his feet. The junction was chaos. Smoke, bodies, sparks from damaged systems. But they were holding. The core pushed harder. Fresh warriors replacing fallen ones. They had the numbers, the equipment, the training. But humans had desperation. And desperation made people dangerous. It happened fast. A core warrior broke through the North Corridor defense. Big, heavily armored. He carried a weapon that looked like it belonged on a vehicle mount. He fired it into the junction. The blast was massive. Concentrated energy. It struck the central support column. Metal superheated, expanded. The structural integrity warning klaxons screamed. The ceiling began to collapse. Fall back, Porter's voice cut through the chaos. The crew retreated, pulling wounded, covering each other. The core pressed after them. Into the south corridor, narrower, single file. Exactly what Porter wanted. Torres seal it. The bulkhead door dropped. Heavy, fast. It caught one core warrior halfway through. The door didn't stop. Hydraulic pressure designed to cut through metal. It cut through the warrior. The core on the other side pulled back, trapped, separated from their main force. Porter's team collapsed into the south quarter section, battered, bleeding, but alive. He did a quick count. 14 people. They'd lost 2 in the junction fight. Vale, where are the main core forces? Jesus, Chief, they're regrouping. Looks like they're pulling back to reassess. Casualties. I count 23 core down, maybe more. Hard to get accurate reads through all the damage. 23, plus the dozen from earlier. The Shadowfang clan had lost more than half their boarding force, but they still had numbers, and the humans were running out of ammunition, running out of space, running out of time. Porter slumped against the corridor wall. His hands shook, adrenaline crash. He forced them still. Soren Torres sat across from him. Her arm was bleeding, shrapnel wound. She wrapped it with torn fabric. Didn't complain. We can't hold another assault like that, she said quietly. I know. What do we do? Porter looked at his people. Exhausted, wounded, but still here, still fighting. He'd been in impossible situations before. Army logistics during the border conflicts. Trapped supply depot. Surrounded. Outnumbered. That time relief had come. Air support. Reinforcements. This time they were alone. We hold, he said, until we can't hold anymore. And then we hold anyway. In medical, Silas Cross worked by emergency lighting. Jacob Rice lay on the surgical table. Unconscious, breathing shallow. Cross had stopped the bleeding, stabilized the wound, but Rice needed real medical facilities. A hospital, not a freight ship's medbay. The door opened. Cross's hand went to the pistol on the table, then relaxed. Thornwald stumbled in. Cargo worker, 50s, salt and pepper beard, clutching his abdomen. Blood seeped between his fingers. Doc, Thornwald said, his voice was weak. I think I need help. Cross was moving before the man finished speaking. Get on the table. Now. But the captain is stable, you're not. Move! Thornwald collapsed onto the secondary table. Cross cut away his uniform. The wound was bad. Energy lanced through the gut. Cauterized externally, but internal damage was severe. This is going to hurt, Cross said. Everything hurts, Doc. Cross worked, hands steady, mind focused. Navy corpsman training from 15 years ago. You saved who you could. You made hard choices about who you couldn't. Thornwald's vitals dropped. Cross pushed medications, stimulants, Plasma expanders? Bought time. It wasn't enough. Doc, Thornwald whispered. Am I? Meyer Cross met his eyes. Honest. Direct. Yeah, you are. Thornwald nodded slightly, accepting. Tell Porter. Tell him we held. You can tell him yourself when. Don't. Thornwald's hand gripped Cross's wrist. Weak. Don't lie to me. Not now. Cross stopped, looked at this man. Freight worker. Hauled cargo for 23 years. Raised 3 kids on a worker's salary. Lived a quiet life. Died defending his ship. You held, Cross said. You all held. Thornwald smiled. Good. His hand loosened. His eyes went distant. Silas Cross felt for a pulse he knew he wouldn't find. He closed Thornwald's eyes, covered him with a sheet, turned back to Jacob Rice, and started preparing for the next casualty. Because there would be more. There were always more. Jacob Rice drifted in darkness. Pain anchored him, sharp, burning, shoulder on fire. Voices filtered through, muffled, distant. To stabilize, but he needs, can't move him not with. Porter wants to know when. Rice fought toward consciousness, clawed his way forward up through layers of darkness and medication. His eyes opened. Medical bay, emergency lights. Silas Cross's face above him. Captain, don't move. You've been hit. Energy weapon, shoulder. Rice tried to speak. His throat was dry. Cross held water to his lips. He drank, coughed. How long? His voice was gravel. 1 hour, 12 minutes. Rice's mind processed. Over an hour unconscious. Over an hour the ship fought without him. He tried to sit up. Pain exploded. Cross pushed him back down. Captain, you can't. Report. Cross hesitated. Then Porter took command. Consolidated forces at Junction Delta. Heavy fighting. They held. Barely. 14 crew still combat effective. We've lost Thornwald. Thornwald. Cargo worker. Good man, dead. Rice felt the weight of it. Command weight. The lives you couldn't save. Core casualties. 35 confirmed, maybe more. Rice looked past Cross, saw a body covered with a sheet. Something cold and hard settled in his chest. He'd been unconscious while his crew died, while Porter led the fight, while everything he'd built, this crew, this ship, this family bled. Help me up. Captain, that's an order, Cross. Cross recognized the tone. He'd heard it before. In the Navy. In combat. The voice that didn't accept no. He helped Rice sit. The pain was enormous. Rice breathed through it. Controlled. Deliberate. His shoulder was bandaged. Burned. The muscle damage would take months to heal properly. Months he didn't have. He had hours. Where's Porter? South Corridor, Section 7. Rice slid off the table. His legs wavered. Cross steadied him. You're in shock. You've lost blood. I need to lead my crew. You need to survive. Rice met Cross's eyes. They needed a captain. I gave them a freight supervisor. That ends now. He moved toward the door. Each step was agony. He ignored it. Cross grabbed a medical kit. Then I'm coming with you. Your place is here, medical bay, treating wounded. My place is keeping you alive long enough to finish this fight. Rice almost smiled. You're stubborn, Doc. Learn from the best captain. They moved into the corridor. The ship was a wreck, scorch marks, bodies, debris. Rice touched a comm panel. Porter, this is Rice. Static, then Captain. You're awake. I'm awake. I'm mobile. Sit rep. Porter's relief was audible. We're holding Section 7. Corps have pulled back. Looks like they're regrouping for final assault. We're low on ammunition. We're exhausted, but we're still here. I'm coming to you. Sir, you're wounded. You should. I'm coming to you. Have Vale pull up tactical on any working display. We're ending this. How? Rice looked at the devastation, at his ship, his home, at the price already paid. We make them an offer, he said, and if they refuse, we make them regret ever hearing the name Atlas Hauler. Declan Porter watched Jacob Rice limp into Section 7 and felt something loosen in his chest. The captain was pale, bandaged, moving like every step cost him. But he was here. Leadership wasn't about being invincible. It was about being present. Captain, Porter's voice was rough, tired. Chief, Rice nodded, looked at the crew, 14 faces, all showing strain. You did good, all of you. Simple words, but they mattered. Rice found a working console. Kieran Vale had rerouted sensor controls here. The display showed the ship's current state. It was grim, multiple hull breaches, Life supported at 60%, engines offline, communications damaged, and 40 core warriors still active, regrouping near the forward sections. They'll come again, Torres said. One more push, they'll overwhelm us. Maybe. Rice studied the display. His mind worked. Tactical, strategic. Or maybe they're realizing this isn't worth the pain. We've killed 30 of their people, Porter said. They're professionals. They don't quit. Everyone quits when the price gets too high. Rice touched controls, brought up external sensors. Vale, can you reach that core cruiser on comms? Maybe, if I reroute through the emergency beacon system. Do it! Vale's hands moved across the interface. Young, scared, but competent. Rice looked at Porter, at Torres, at Cross, at faces he'd known for years. I'm going to try talking, he said. Talking, Torres' voice was sharp. They boarded us, they killed Thornwald, and you want to talk, I want to survive, and I want them gone. Talking might achieve both. And if it doesn't, Rice pulled up another control screen. Ship systems, the emergency beacon, military frequency, designed to reach fleet vessels within light years. Then I activate this. It broadcasts our position, our situation, and brings a destroyer here in about 3 hours. Porter understood immediately. They won't want military involvement. No, pirates don't. Destroyers ask questions, investigate. The Shadowfang clan has a reputation. They can't afford a public failure. So we threaten them, Torres said slowly, with exposure. We give them a choice. Withdraw with wounded, or stay and face fleet response. They could just kill us all before the fleet arrives, someone said. They could, Reese admitted, but they'd still have to explain why a fleet destroyer found their ships at the site of a massacre, why a civilian freighter fought back, why the Shadowfang clan needed 70 warriors to take down 37 workers. He paused. Their reputation is their weapon. We're about to break it. Kieran Vale looked up. Captain, I've got a channel to the core cruiser. Audio only. Put it through. A moment of static, then a voice, precise, unaccented by the translator. Cold. Human vessel. This is Captain Jacob Rice. I want to talk to Captain Zarak. Captain Zarak does not negotiate with. Tell him he's lost 30 warriors boarding a frigate ship. Tell him we're about to activate our military emergency beacon. And tell him he has 5 minutes to open this channel or explain to his superiors why the Shadowfang clan ran from humans. Silence, then hold. Rice looked at his crew. When this channel opens, you stay quiet. Let me talk. This only works if they think I'm in control. Are you? Torres asked. Rice met her eyes. Honest. No, but they don't need to know that. The comm activated again. Different voice, deeper, more controlled. This is Captain Zarak. Rice straightened, ignored the pain. Command voice. This is Captain Rice. We need to discuss terms. There are no terms. You will surrender your... No. Rice cut him off. Simple. Direct. We won't. You've been trying to take this ship for Putum. He checked the chrono 2 hours and 47 minutes. You've lost approximately 35 warriors. We've lost 1. The math is not in your favor. Silence. You're bluffing. Am I? You've got sensors. You've been watching. Your boarding teams are trapped, injured, or dead. We've been fighting in our quarters, on our terms, and we're still here. You have no weapons. We have enough. More silence. Rice could almost hear Zarak calculating. What do you want? Zarak asked finally. I want you gone. You withdraw your forces. You leave, we continue our route. Unacceptable. Then here's what happens. I activate our military emergency beacon. Fleet destroyer arrives in 3 hours. They find your ships. They find our ship. They investigate. The Shadowfang clan's first failed boarding becomes public knowledge. He let that sink in. Or you can withdraw now. Retrieve your wounded. Leave. And nobody needs to know that 37 freight workers held off your elite forces. Declan Porter watched the captain. Wounded. Exhausted. Bluffing with nothing but words and reputation. It was beautiful. Zarak's voice came back. You would let us retrieve our wounded. I'm not a monster. I'm a freight captain. I want to finish my route. I want my people safe. I want you gone. In that order. If we withdraw, you will not transmit. I won't transmit anything. This conversation doesn't exist. Your failure doesn't exist. You made a tactical error attacking a ship you didn't properly assess. Learn from it and leave. Another long silence. Then show me proof of my warrior's survival. Rice looked at Vale. Can we get camera feeds from the secured sections? Yes, sir. Do it. Show him. Vale worked quickly. Images appeared on screen. Core warriors, bound, injured, but alive. Medical patches visible. Human crew members standing guard but not harming them. Zarok would see it on his screens. You treated them, Zarok said. Something in his voice changed, not softer, but different. I told you I'm not a monster. They're wounded. We treat wounded. Rice paused. Even when they tried to kill us. Silence stretched. Porter held his breath. The entire crew held their breath. Finally, we will withdraw. You will release our forces to their boarding pods. No pursuit, no transmission. Agreed. And Captain Rice, yes. The Shadowfang clan does not forget. Today you won, but we will remember. So will I, Rice said quietly. So will my crew, every face, every name, every person you tried to kill. He ended the transmission, looked at his people. Start moving the prisoners to their pods, under guard, weapons ready. If this is a trick, it's not a trick, Porter said. They're professionals. They've lost. They're cutting losses. Torres spoke up. Captain, we're just going to let them go after Thornwald. After everything. Rice met her eyes. Yes, because fighting them to the death gets more of us killed. And I'm done losing people today. He activated ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. The Corps are withdrawing. We're releasing prisoners. Stay alert. Stay armed. But unless they violate the terms, we let them leave. He paused. We held. Against impossible odds. Against professional killers. We held our ground. We protected our ship. And we're still here. His voice strengthened. Thornwald died defending his home. We honor him by surviving. By finishing this run. By going home to our families. He released the comm. Looked at the chrono. 3 hours and 11 minutes since the first Corps warrior breached their hull. It felt like a lifetime. The prisoner exchange took 45 minutes. Corps warriors were escorted under guard to their boarding pods. Injured were carried, medical supplies provided. Not mercy, strategic thinking. Rice wanted Zarok to see that humans could be reasonable, could be professional, could be respected. The last Corps warrior to leave was the one Porter had fought hand-to-hand. Tall, battered, purple blood staining his armor. He stopped at the airlock, looked at Porter. Something passed between them. Recognition, warrior to warrior. Then he was gone. The pod detached, drifted back to the Shadowfang cruiser. 5 more pods followed. Kieran Vale monitored sensors. All pods retrieved. The cruiser is, Captain, they're powering up drives. Are they targeting us? No, sir. They're leaving. On the main display, the Shadowfang cruiser turned. Its drives flared. It accelerated away from the frigate lanes, into empty space. Gone. Silence fell over the Atlas hauler. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They just watched the empty space where their enemy had been. Finally, Soren Torres broke the silence. Holy shit. We did it. We did it, Porter agreed. Jacob Rice slumped against the console. The adrenaline was fading. Pain rushed in to replace it. Silas Cross was there immediately. Captain, you need... I know what I need, Doc. Rice's voice was weak. But first I need a damage report. Ship status, crew status, everything. Sir, you're about to pass out. Then talk fast, Cross sighed. But he pulled up medical data. 14 combat effective crew, 8 wounded but mobile, 4 critical, including you, 1 deceased. 1 deceased, Thornwald. Rice closed his eyes. The ship, Torres answered. Engines can be restarted. We've got hull breaches, but they're sealed. Life support is functional. We're beat to hell, Captain, but we're flying. How long to Frontier 7? 48 hours if we can get engines back online. Rice nodded, opened his eyes, looked at his crew, battered, bloody, exhausted, alive. Get us there, he said. I'll be in medical. Porter, you have command until I'm functional. Yes, sir. Rice let Cross guide him toward medical. Each step was harder than the last. At the door, he looked back, saw Kieran Vale at the sensor station, hands still shaking slightly, but working, saw Declan Porter organizing repair teams, saw Soren Torres already elbow-deep in engine diagnostics, saw his crew, his people, his family. They'd held, against impossible odds, against professional killers. They'd held. And Jacob Rice realized something. He'd spent 12 years running from who he was, from command, from responsibility, from the weight of leadership. Today he'd remembered, remembered what it meant to stand, to fight, to protect people. Remembered why he'd become a Marine in the first place. Not for glory, not for war, for this, for the people beside him in the darkness. Captain, Cross's voice, concerned. Rice looked at him. I'm good, Doc. Just thinking. About what? About retirement. And Rice smiled slightly, painfully. I think it can wait. He let Cross lead him to medical. Behind him, the Atlas hauler limped toward Frontier 7. Wounded, battered, victorious, and in the darkness of space among the stars, humans had only recently reached a message spread. The Shadowfang clan had retreated, for the first time, from 37 freight workers. The galaxy was learning what humans already knew, that sometimes the most dangerous people aren't the ones with the best weapons. They're the ones defending home. 29 hours became a blur. The Atlas hauler limped through space, engines running hot, hull groaning with each course correction. But flying, always flying. Jacob Rice returned to the bridge after 6 hours of forced rest. Cross had sedated him despite protests. When he woke, the ship was still intact, still moving. Kieran Vale sat at navigation. The kid looked older. Something in his eyes had changed. Combat did that. Aged you in ways time couldn't measure. Captain, Vale's voice was steadier now, less tremor, more confidence. Status on course, engines holding, no pursuit detected. We're clean. Good work, Vale. The kid blinked, surprised. Sir, I froze during the fight. You fought when it mattered. You held your position. You called out targets when Porter needed them. Rice sat in the command chair. Winced. Being scared doesn't make you a coward. Running makes you a coward. You stayed. That's all that matters. Vale absorbed that, nodded slowly. Thank you, sir. Rice watched the stars streak past, faster than light travel, humanity's gift to itself, the ability to cross impossible distances. But distance didn't erase what happened. The bridge still bore scorch marks, bullet holes, dried blood in the corners where cleaning crews couldn't reach. Evidence, proof that the impossible had occurred. They sat in silence. Two men, different generations, same profession. Bound by what they'd survived, the station appeared on sensors 29 hours after leaving the battlefield. Frontier 7, Outer Colony Station, population 8,000, industrial hub, mining operations, refinery, freight depot, home for some, waypoint for others. For the Atlas hauler crew, it was salvation. Frontier 7 control, this is Atlas hauler requesting emergency docking. Vale transmitted. We have wounded, we need medical support. Static. Then Atlas hauler, we read you, transmitting emergency dock assignment, base 7. Medical teams will be standing by. A pause. What happened? We were boarded. Pirates, we defended ourselves. Another pause. Longer this time. Copy that, Atlas hauler. Welcome to Frontier 7. Base 7 is yours. The docking procedure took 40 minutes. Vale's hands were steady now. Precise. He brought the damaged freighter in without help from automated systems. Most were offline. The ship shuddered as docking clamps engaged. Seal confirmed. Pressure equalized. They were safe. Jacob Rice stood. Every muscle screamed protest. He ignored it. Keyed the ship-wide comm for the last time this voyage. All hands, this is the captain. We have arrived at Frontier 7. Medical teams are standing by. Wounded first. Everyone else maintains position until we're cleared by station security. He paused. You did the impossible. You defended our ship. You brought us home. I'm proud of every single one of you. He released the comm, looked at Porter, at Torres, at Cross, at Vale, his crew, his people. Let's get off this ship, he said quietly. The station security office was sterile. White walls, harsh lighting, 2 chairs and a table bolted to the deck. Jacob Rice sat across from Commander Sarah Chen, station security chief, former fleet officer. Sharp eyes that missed nothing. Tell me what happened, she said. Rice told her. Everything. The Shadowfang clan, the boarding, the fighting, protocol iron, the casualties, the negotiation, the withdrawal. Chen listened without interrupting, took notes on a datapad. Her expression remained neutral. When Rice finished, she set down the datapad. You understand what you're claiming, she asked, that 37 civilian freight workers defeated the Shadowfang clan. Not defeated, survived, made them retreat. Same thing. The Shadowfang has never retreated. They did from us. Chen studied him, saw the bandaged shoulder, the exhaustion, the truth in his eyes. I need to verify your story with your crew. Verify all you want. It happened. Captain Rice, do you know what this means? If word gets out, it won't. That a civilian freighter held off elite mercenaries. It won't get out because everyone involved wants it quiet. The Shadow Fang doesn't want their reputation damaged. We don't want to be targets, and the military doesn't want to admit they weren't there when civilians needed help. Chen leaned back. You're politically astute for a freight captain. I'm not stupid, just tired. She nodded slowly. What do you want from me? I want medical care for my wounded. I want to bury my dead with dignity. I want supplies to repair my ship. And I want to finish my route so I can go home. That's it. That's it. Chen looked at him for a long moment. Then she stood, extended her hand. You have my respect, Captain, and my silence. Rice shook her hand. Thank you. One question, though. Yes. How did you do it, really? Rice thought about narrow corridors, about shotguns and improvisation, about people who'd spent years in tight spaces learning to move to work to survive. We knew our ship, he said simply. They didn't. Frontier 7 had a memorial garden, artificial gravity, hydroponics, real trees under UV lights, a place of green in the sterile station. They buried Thornwald there. Not literally. Space regulations required cremation. But his ashes went into the garden soil, would feed the trees, would become part of the station. 37 crew members stood in a semicircle, bandaged, bruised, alive. Jacob Rice spoke. No prepared remarks, just words from the heart. James Thornwald worked freight for 23 years, did honest work for honest pay. He didn't ask for glory, didn't want attention, just wanted to do his job and go home. His voice was steady, command voice. Yesterday he defended his home, his crew, his family. He fought because someone had to, and he died because sometimes fighting costs everything. He paused, looked at the faces, saw grief, saw pride, saw understanding. We can't bring him back, can't change what happened, but we can honor him by remembering, by taking care of each other, by being the family he died defending. Declan Porter stepped forward, placed a small metal plaque in the soil. Simple, unadorned, no dates, no details, just the essential truth. He stood. The crew filed past, each touching the plaque, each saying goodbye in their own way. Soren Torres wept quietly. Cross stood at attention. Vale's hands didn't shake. Rice watched them, his people, his family, and understood something fundamental. You didn't retire from family. 3 weeks after arriving, the Atlas hauler was ready, supplies loaded, repairs complete. Crew rested. The return cargo was processed titanium. Standard freight, no drama, no excitement, exactly what they needed. Jacob Rice stood on the bridge as they prepared for departure. Kieran Vale at navigation, new confidence in his movements, new maturity in his voice. Course plotted, Captain, ready for departure on your mark. Station clearance. Granted, bay doors opening, we're clear to fly. Rice looked at his ship, at the repaired bulkheads, at the crew moving through their stations with practiced efficiency. 37 had fought, 36 had survived. One remained in the garden soil of Frontier 7. Take us out, Vale. Easy acceleration. Let's not stress the new repairs. Yes, sir. The Atlas hauler moved, slow, steady, out of the dock, into open space. Behind them, Frontier 7 shrank. Ahead, the shipping lane stretched into infinity. Rice keyed the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We're underway. Route is clear. Forecast is good. We should be home in 14 days. He paused, choosing words carefully. 3 weeks ago, we faced impossible odds. We fought, we bled, we lost someone we loved. But we stood together. Family. His voice strengthened. What happened will stay with us, the memories, the nightmares, the scars. But so will the pride, the knowledge that when tested we didn't break. Another pause. James Thornwald died defending his home. We honor him by getting everyone else home safe, by being the family he believed in. Final pause. Welcome home, Atlas hauler. We're going the distance. He released the comm. The ship flew on. 48 days later, the Atlas hauler arrived at Earth Orbital Station. The crew disembarked. Declan Porter found work on inter-system runs. Safer, quieter. He sent Rice a message 3 months later. Boring as hell. But I sleep now. Soren Torres became chief engineer on a passenger liner. Better pay, closer to her daughters. She named her youngest granddaughter James. Silas Cross remained with Frey at work. Different ship, different crew. But he kept Rice's contact information. Kieran Vale graduated navigator training. Top of his class, he wore his father's freight medallion at the ceremony. Jacob Rice attended his son's college graduation. Watched Marcus walk across that stage. Engineering degree. Honors. Afterward, over dinner, Marcus asked, "Dad, what happened out there? You never talk about it." Rice looked at his son, saw youth, saw future, saw everything he'd fought to protect. "We had some trouble. Pirates. But the crew handled it. Just handled it. We stood together. That's all." Marcus studied his father, saw the scars, the permanent shoulder stiffness, the way his eyes sometimes went distant. "You're different," Marcus said quietly. "How harder, sadder, but also, I don't know, more at peace." Rice smiled slightly. "I remembered something I'd forgotten." "What's that? Who I am, what I'm good at, why it matters." 6 months later, Rice received a message. Encrypted, untraceable. It contained two things. First, a star map showing Shadowfang clan movements, their routes, their targets, intelligence that shouldn't exist. Second, a single line of text. "You treated our wounded, we do not forget. Ex Xerox." Rice studied the intelligence, saw patterns, saw freight routes being targeted. He made calls, contacted old crew members, reached out to connections. Quietly, carefully. He started warning other freight captains, teaching protocol iron, sharing what they'd learned, not as military, not as official program, as workers helping workers, as family protecting family. The Shadowfang clan never raided human freight vessels again. Word spread quietly, humans fight back. Protocol iron became training on civilian routes. Not official, not public, but freight captains talked, shared knowledge, taught each other. The Atlas hauler completed 43 more runs before Jacob Rice finally retired. Declan Porter died peacefully at 78. 200 freight workers attended his funeral. Soren Torres became chief engineer for an entire passenger fleet. Silas Cross saved 147 lives over his career. He counted. Kieran Vale became a captain at 31. His crew knew him as unshakable. And in a memorial garden on Frontier 7, a plaque still reads, simple words, profound truth. 37 freight workers who reminded the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was each other. And when humans stand together, when they defend what's theirs, they become unstoppable. Not invincible, just unwilling to quit.